welcome back to Indie Rebel, the podcast for independent filmmakers. And I know what you're thinking, like, yes, the podcast is back. We've got this 2 weeks in a row. And honestly, yes, I'm trying to do this weekly again. It always seems to come a lot easier in the wintertime when I don't have as much to do outside, especially now that I'm mending from a broken wrist at the moment. So I'm going to try to get back into the routine of doing these, and I'm really excited about today. Last week, if you recall, we talked about casting. And now that the film is cast, it's actually time to go back and revisit the schedule. Now, originally, when we started, if you recall, we created a dream schedule once we'd finished the script. And this was so we could figure out how long we would need actors for, we would know how long we needed locations for, and all this kind of stuff that would allow us to put together a preliminary budget. Well, now we have our actors cast. It's time to actually have to adjust the schedule now because guess what? We're dealing with people and people have lives and their availability may not line up with your availability. And so it's important, like we talked about, to consider how important is this person? Am I going to wait for them? Or am I willing to work around what they have going on? And that's kind of where we're going to take off today. I'm also going to explain, as a little added bonus, how I created my own scheduling software totally for free using AI tools. And I know there's a lot of stigma about AI right now, and I'm against it in many cases, and we can talk about that too maybe in another episode. In fact, maybe I'll do that next week. Next week, I'll talk about the role of AI in filmmaking and where I think it's acceptable and where it's not. But when it comes to app development, there are circumstances where, yes, I think it's acceptable to use, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But first, let's bounce back to dealing with our actors for a moment. So you've signed them on, they agree to do the project. They know what's expected of them in terms of how long you're going to be needing them for in an ideal situation. Well, now they're going to come to you and say, hey, I'm only available to film these days at these times, and that's really all I can do right now. And you're especially going to find this true if you're not paying people. And this is why I really suggest, if you can, find a way to pay your actors, pay them something up front so they are working for you. Otherwise, you're going to be at the whim of their schedules. And that's really the only fair way to do it. If you're not paying them for their time, then you do have to work around what else they've got going on. But if you are paying them and you're paying them something substantial that could make up for their lost hours at a day job, all right, well, now it's more of a fair trade-off, and they're going to be more willing and more apt to work around what it is that you want to do. And the other thing that you got to realize is that even though, yes, you're still working around your actor schedules now, you also have to go back and revisit and juggle around your other things that we considered when we were doing the schedule, right? Things like location availability, equipment availability. Maybe you're borrowing a camera or an audio recorder from a friend. Maybe you're renting the equipment. I don't know. But it's only available certain days, certain times. So now you have to correlate that with your actors. And before you know it, what had initially been planned to be a 2-week shoot now turns into a 2-month shoot, only shooting on nights and weekends. And you, as the Indie Rebel, need to decide if that's something that you're okay with doing. And if you really want to make a movie, you're gonna do it. You will bend over backwards to make this thing happen, no matter what time sacrifices are involved on your part. Because at the end of the day, everyone else is doing you a favor by working on your film. Now, as an example of this, I should say, on my last film, Leap, A Tale of the Last Days, my lead actor came in from out of state. We brought him in from Idaho here to Montana, and he lived about 6 hours away. So in this case, because I had him here for that set amount of time, his scenes were the ones that were prioritized. Yes, early on, I think we shot a couple scenes without him, or that didn't have him in it, and he was helping out behind the scenes. But I realized very quickly, I only have 2.5 weeks with this actor. I need to make sure I got his stuff shot out because he's got a hard end date. He's got to go back to his job, and actually he was heading off to a video editing conference, I believe. And so I'm like, all right, I only have you until this day. We need to get your stuff done. Everyone else was local. I knew that we could reschedule things and move things around and shoot some of their solo stuff later on. And the problem was he was the lead actor, and so there wasn't really a whole lot of other solo stuff that could be shot. And so I think we only ended up with about 2 days after the lead actor left where I had to do some pickups with other people and shoot 1 or 2 other scenes that we hadn't managed to capture yet. So things like that will inform what takes priority on your shoot. As a final note on this scheduling side of things here, you as the director need to realize that your schedule will never be set in stone, especially at the independent level. Okay, you're not on a Hollywood feature where everyone's being paid salaries to be there to make your vision come to life. People are still, even though you're paying them, they're still donating their time at the end of the day. They're taking time away from friends and family and loved ones and all that kind of stuff. Life is going to happen, things are going to come up. I've shot 5 feature-length films, and I've never had a single one stick to any of the schedules for any length of time. Even the day of, I found myself having to reschedule things and scramble and trying to say, "Oh, well, this location fell through, so if so and so's available, maybe I can go shoot at this other location over here and we can do that." That's just the nature of indie filmmaking. And you, as the indie rebel, need to be able to pivot and make sure that you are okay with the uncertainty and the chaos that goes into scheduling a movie and having to even reschedule a movie as you're in the middle of filming the movie. So expect that and know that that's going to happen. Now, what I want to do is I want to talk about how I built my own scheduling software. And this is new since I'd recorded the previous episode on scheduling. So originally we talked about, paper, like pencil and paper, doing it on a whiteboard. We talked about software like Movie Magic, talked about what I liked, what I didn't like about them. And, I really do love Movie Magic. I think it's a fantastic piece of production software. I love that it has a calendar view, even though I know a lot of people don't really use that a whole lot. Like, that's just my favorite way to work. And the only thing I don't like about Movie Magic is really the price. And now they've switched to kind of a subscription model. It's no longer buy it once and you have it forever. It's you're going to pay either monthly or yearly for the software. And, if you're only doing, maybe one film every couple of years, I can see that working out well, knowing that, hey, you could sign up for the software, use it for 9 months while you plan your film and shoot your film, and then you cancel your subscription. That's great, but you still end up paying more than what we used to pay for the final or the all-in package back in the day. And so for a couple of years now, I've actually been thinking, I wonder if I could create my own software. Would it be worth learning how to code to do this? And at the end of the day, I decided no, it's not worth me learning how to code. I don't have an interest in it. I think coding is an art form unto itself, and I just have no desire to put in the time and the hours to get good at coding. And so I started hearing rumors about people using AI to write their own software. And so I remember getting into ChatGPT about 2 or 3 years ago and saying, help me write a film scheduling software to schedule a film shoot. And it says, oh, well, you're going to need to choose a platform to do it on. And here's some things to consider. And, make sure you design the UI and make it well thought out. Like, it gave me this overview of a process and it wasn't working for me. And so I kind of forgot about it. I kept dreaming about my dream software for a couple of years, planning it out in my head. What's it going to look like? And then I started hearing more and more about this thing called vibe coding, where people could use AI to literally write the software code for them. And I'm like, I got to figure out how to do this. And so I got back into ChatGPT and I gave it the prompt. I don't know anything about coding, but I would like you to make a film scheduling software that runs on Mac OS Sequoia that allows me to schedule scenes for a movie on a calendar. And by the way, I don't know anything about coding, so I need you to make the DMG for me. Can you do that? And it retorts back, oh, yes, I'd be happy to do that for you. It asked me a couple follow up questions. I gave it answers. And it says, okay, I'm going to make your DMG installer right now. And so I'm waiting for it. And I'm waiting for it. And like an hour or two goes by. And I have no clue about coding or how this all works, right? I've never used AI really for anything before, except I think I used it once on Leap to write a letter that was a prop in the film about the college shutting down. That was my only experience with ChatGPT before this. And it keeps saying, oh yeah, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. And so I would check back in like every couple hours. Hey, are we getting close yet? Oh yeah, I'm just, compiling it all now and we're almost done. You should have it and you should have your film scheduling software in just a few minutes. A day and a half goes by before I finally realized it was pulling my leg. It was trying to act like it was a software developer without actually being a software developer. And I'm like, oh shoot, man, what is going on? And I got tired of waiting. So I ask it, can you just give me the code and tell me what program I need to use to compile it myself? And it says, oh yeah, I can do that. And spits out like 200 lines of code, something like that. It wasn't very much. And it says, you need to just copy and paste this into something called Xcode. So I get on the App Store on my MacBook Air and I downloaded Xcode. I copy and paste the code into it. Everything's looking pretty good. And then I go to like test the program and it crashes. So I go back to ChatGPT. I said, hey, the code you gave me crashed. Oh, yes, I see the problem. The problem is over here. Here, I fixed it for you. It gives me the new code. I copy and paste and it crashes. I did this for about a week and I'm starting to get very frustrated right now. And finally, I start doing some research. I hadn't done any research on this yet, right? I had no clue what I was doing. Start doing some research, and a lot of these vibe coders are saying that Claude works really well for it, Claude.ai. So I go over to Claude, and I complained. I said, hey, I had ChatGPT generate this code for me in Xcode. It doesn't want to run. This is a film scheduling app for my Mac that will allow me to drag and drop scenes on the calendar. Can you figure out what the error is for me? I copy and pasted the code from ChatGPT into this. Instantly, it says, oh, yeah, there's an error here, here, and here. I've corrected them for you. Here's your new file, your new code. Copy and paste that back into Xcode, and it ran. For the first time, I had a working app, and I didn't have to code a single line of code for it. And I was totally blown away, and I was very, very excited by this. Now that I had a working version of the app, and by working, I mean it runs without crashing, I was able to see that this was pretty bare bones. ChatGPT hadn't done a whole lot to it. So I said, okay, we need to start adding features. And very quickly, I realized that I needed to basically become a project manager. It was my job to say, this is the vision, this is what I want you to add, or this is what I want you to do. You make that happen. And so I started adding things like improving the calendar layout, started adding the ability to edit metadata for the scene strips that were being dragged and dropped onto the calendar. I had to add the ability to reorder scenes on the calendar because originally they would go from the boneyard to the calendar and then that was it. Like I couldn't move them around. So I had to add that kind of functionality. And then something interesting happened, and that's that Claude tells me, you've run out of free credits, come back in 12 hours. And I'm just like, what? And I guess it made sense. I was using the free version. So then I take all this new code that's now running, and I've got some new implemented features, but there's more features I want to add to make it like fully usable. I bounce back to Chat GPT. I said, and I always start off with saying, this is the code for my film shoot scheduling app for Mac. I want to add this kind of functionality to it. Can you do that for me? And it would do it, and it would tell me where to paste the new code, and I could add it in based upon the lines because your code lines are numbered. And I was able to figure it out how to do that. And what I learned is that ChatGPT was really good for kind of more interface kind of stuff, making it look prettier, like changing the colors of certain things, adding a light mode, dark mode, that kind of stuff. And then Claude ended up being better for like actually adding core functionality to the app itself. Like when I wanted added, PDF exports or saving and loading files and schedules and stuff like that. So I go back and forth between these two apps. I'm using the free versions, right? Because I'm too cheap to pay for it. That was the whole point of this exercise is I didn't want to pay for Movie Magic. I'm not going to pay for any of these stupid AIs to do the code for me either. So back and forth, back and forth. Finally, after about 2 weeks, I had a pretty solid app. And I was like, wow, I could actually use this now. This is working great. I can add everything to the boneyard, it's labeled day or night. I bring that into the calendar schedule, and then I can print a grayscale PDF file of my calendar where day scenes are white and night shoots are gray. And it just worked great. I mean, it does everything I want it to do. I did eventually start running into more brick walls. Initially I'm bouncing back between ChatGPT and Claude, and going back and forth between them. But even that was starting to not work so well anymore. because they just realized I was using too much of their resources. And so they started shutting me out sooner and sooner and sooner. And then the other thing that started happening was the code itself was just getting too big for them to handle. I believe when I stopped using those AIs, it was about 2,000 lines of code that we'd created. And it's a total mess, right? Like if a app developer were to take one look at my code, I'm sure they would freak out and want to run the other direction. Kind of like me myself as a filmmaker, where I could take a look at somebody's idea for a script and be like, "Oh, heck no, this is not going to work." And, maybe need to take off or something like that. So, I get it, but the point is it's functional for me and it works and I'm the only one using it. It's not like I'm using this AI to create art that I'm putting out into the world. I'm using it to help me with a mundane task that I need to do in order to do my job as the independent filmmaker. So when I started burning up my time on these other two AIs, then I actually started bringing Google Gemini into the mix, and I've put some of the finer polish on with Gemini. And again, still using free versions of that. So, moral of the story is don't let lack of money deter you. Like I said, I'm only using the free versions of the stuff, and I was able to create a tool that I needed to accomplish the task at hand. And it took me just a few weeks to do it, and actually became a lot of fun. I still don't know jack about coding. I know maybe like 0.5% of what there is to know about stuff. I know what a content view.swift is, and I know kind of some things I can look for to, like, if I want to change the colors of stuff. And like, that's about it. It's probably not even 0.5%. I'm like 0.005% is what I know about coding. But I was able to figure out enough that I was able to create this app, and it's kind of cool. So, as a thank you for listening to this, I'm going to, in the show notes, put a link to what I've created on my Google Drive. It runs on Sequoia, it runs on Tahoe. You will need to sign it yourself. The app is not signed because, again, it was designed just for me. I'm giving it out there for people if they want to check it out and see what it can do. And maybe you can find a way to reverse engineer it and add your own features and do whatever you want to it from there. I'm not putting out the code because then I'm afraid I might be held liable for stuff if something goes wrong with it and things. It's just a simple app. It's just like 3 megabytes. It's less than 3 megabytes in size. So very, very small footprint. Check it out. See what you think. I've also included a video where I demo some of the core features and kind of how it works so you can try it out and see for yourself. But again, you are going to need to sign it yourself. And so what you'll do is you'll download the app, move it into your applications folder, open up a terminal, and then you're going to need to type some code. And it's, I think, xattr space dash c space slash applications with a capital A slash CineSched, capital C, capital S, .app. And so you'll need to, if that's not right, you'll need to look up how to sign apps yourself, whatever. Very easy to do, but you do that. Now the app is signed, and it should run for you. I don't know if it will or not. You're welcome to give it a shot. Otherwise, do it for yourself. See if you can vibe code your own app if you're interested enough in it. And really, at the end of the day, when it comes to the scheduling, like I mentioned in the last one we talked about scheduling, try a bunch of different things and figure out what works best for you. Maybe you don't want a computer app. Maybe you want an app on your phone. Maybe that's what's going to work best for you. Maybe pencil and paper is the way to go. Print out a calendar and just manually start penciling in what days you need. Do the whiteboard thing in your office if you want to. There's really no right or wrong way to do it. The biggest thing is to just understand that your schedule is never and will never be set in stone, and that as an indie rebel, you need to be agile and flexible to do it. So that concludes our show this week. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Christopher Tempel, and you've been listening to Indie Rebel, the podcast for independent filmmakers.